Well, good morning, guys. Just wanted to take some time today to talk about AI and automation. I know you guys are kind of the expert there in that field with your company. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I wanted the conversation just because I think when I talk to small and medium-sized businesses, or a lot of people who are not diving into AI already, there's just a lot of mystery there, and people don't understand what AI can be used for, and they're really concerned about it. And so instead of learning about it, they just kind of shy away from it. So my hope with the conversation today is just to kind of unveil some of the features of AI, some of the benefits, some of the risks, some of the just kind of talk about it so that people aren't quite as afraid of learning about AI and using it in their business to help them get a leg up on some of the competition and kind of stay current with some of the systems and features that are available to them. As you know, my name is Jesse. I am a business consultant. I love working with businesses to help simplify their processes. I do a lot of operations stuff, and so I look at how things are working in the backside of the business, trying to find ways to simplify what they're doing and make sure that things are running smoothly for them, so that they can focus on what they do best in their business. I've been diving into AI and automation for a while now and just trying to learn because it is something that I see a lot of potential in. But that's why I wanted the conversation with you guys today. So if you'd take a minute to introduce yourself and who you are, what your company is, and we can dive more into that later as well, but just kind of a brief overview for now.
Yeah, my name is Xiao, the CIO and co-founder of the GenAI company here with Oscar. So my role is mostly handling all the technical side of the company, especially making sure we're staying ahead of the curve. Everything we do is the most innovative. And a little background about myself, came from the music industry, and through that experience is eventually transitioned to more of the business side of the entertainment industry. And because of that, was able to work on some of the most cutting edge technology, starting around 2020. Worked on anything from AR, VR, metaverse, blockchain, um, and now, of course, eventually transition to artificial intelligence. So yeah, that's kind of my background.
Yeah, so first of all, Jesse, thank you for having us. My name's Oscar Carrasquillo. I'm a co-founder of TheGenAI. And in short, we're a implementation agency that helps small and mid-sized businesses unlock productivity, growing using just practical AI and automation tools. My background comes from a Fortune 100, as well as what I call scrappy startups, where whether you're bootstrapped or some funding. So I've seen firsthand how tech and can empower teams and at the same time overwhelm them if they don't have that trusted guide. So our mission is to make AI approachable, actionable, especially for a lot of the business leaders who want to stay ahead without getting lost in a lot of the tech jargon, especially what you see nowadays. Everybody's about that shiny new thing, and marketing is just, I call it a tsunami of things that are being thrown at business owners. And so a lot of times owners or CEOs or leaders are just kind of stuck, right? In many cases, they even get into what I call analysis paralysis, and they can't move forward. And so through what myself and the co-founders of TheGenAI aim to do is help a lot of these folks move ahead.
Mhm. Yeah, and I like you said, I think people just get overwhelmed and they're busy running their business. They want to, they want to sell their widgets or they want to do, whatever, and they don't have time to learn and, unlock some of that stuff. And so I love that you guys are able to step in and help them through that process. So now I'm curious. So when people talk about AI, they have a lot of preconceived notions of what it is. What do you find in your conversations with people of what their preconceived notions are versus what it actually is? Is there a difference, or are they pretty accurate on what they perceive it to be?
So from my experience, just through conversations with people, most people just tend to think AI is this magical tool that can change their life and change their business overnight, right? Take them from 0 to 1 million. But in reality, it's not. Currently, AI is very powerful, but there is also a lot of limitation, and there's just a lot of things, potential risk and even protocol people need to put in place before fully implementing, AI solution in their business. So, for example, right, there's AI and there's AI agent. Because of the way it's being marketed, there's a lot of false and hype in the marketing. People tend to think everything about AI is AI agent. In reality, nowadays, most of the solution, if you really look into it, a lot of them are really AI automation. They're not AI agent. And also, a lot of time when it comes to implementing into business, you don't necessarily always need AI agent. What I mean by that is you first need to understand what the task is, what type of task require AI automation, what type of task require it's better to use AI agent. And if the task is something that has a low error tolerance rate, you probably want to stay away from AI agent, because right now AI agent has a about 5 to 10% of error rates.
Mm.
That 5 to 10% error rates can easily cost your business, ranging from $1,000 to millions, if not more.
Hmm.
Um, of course, there's things you can put in place, right? Like human in the loop process in the AI agent that can kind of reduce that more. But there's also another thing you need to think of. AI agent typically has a higher running cost than than a regular AI automation. If the task you're trying to automate has a very definite process of, if A happen, then B happen, and then C happen. If that process is very defined and it doesn't change at all every time it happens, go with the AI automation. You don't need an AI agent. But if the task is somewhat dynamic, right? So for example, something like a customer service, depends on what the customer is asking. Different things might be required. You might, we can simply just, maybe the customer just want answer on something, or maybe the customer want a refund, or the customer want something else. That action might be a little more dynamic. That's when you can consider using an agent, of course, with a proper human in the loop process in place.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's what I'm seeing so far. Oscar, what about you? Anything you want to add to that?
No, you did a great job of, I mean, talking about what the reality is versus a myth. And it all depends on who you, when you think about everybody's, I call it an AI journey, right? Everybody's in a different place. You can have someone that's been exposed to what everybody knows, right? ChatGPT is a large language model. And so they have that level of exposure. Maybe you have somebody that has Microsoft Copilot. So now they've been exposed to some level of an AI agent. So everybody's in a different place. And so I think to say, AI is one thing or another, I would just agree with Xiao, where it's not a crystal ball where it has all the answers. AI can be as simple as you want it to be, or it can be as complex as you want it to be, only limited by what the reality is out there. And what I mean by that is, Xiao did a good brought up a good point of the 5 to 10% possible error rate with an AI agent, right? So there's other solutions out there that can be a simple automation. And I say simple, I'm not saying it's that simple, but we call it that because you're taking something, you want it to do a task, but you want to simplify it as much as you can and just be straightforward if you can, right? If
Hmm.
it's more complex, then maybe you build a different solution, to Xiao's point, like an AI agent. So we look at it as, how can you, again, our mission right now, we worked with enterprise clients, et cetera, but the small to mid-sized businesses are the ones that need the most help. And so our job is to help demystify that, explain, educate, and then help guide them to say, okay, Now I can make a decision based on the information and knowledge I have and understanding what AI is versus what the myths are.
Yeah, and I think you're right that so many people will lump in, they'll just say, oh, get AI to do it. And they're talking about automation, which isn't the same thing. So AI and automation can work hand in hand, but they're really totally separate things. We've had automation for a long time in business
Mhm.
where we've been able to do these things automatically rather than AI, where it's, there's a little bit more of a back end thinking about things, I guess. What are the different types of AI that are out there currently?
So there's a couple different terms I'm just seeing being thrown around a lot, right? So LLM, machine learning, and generative AI. So if I have to explain the difference of these three in just one simple sentence, so LLMs are basically AI that write and understand language. That's how AI work. AI doesn't actually think. People always say, "Oh, AI is thinking." AI doesn't know how to think. It's really good at predicting the next word that come with the previous word. Machine learning is AI, how AI learns from data. That's essentially what machine learning is, the way AI learns. And generative AI basically refers to different models that includes LLM that generates content like text and image. And I want to kind of go back to what I was talking about earlier in terms of how LLMs like ChatGPT predict the next word. The best way to explain this is when you ask a human, what is the color of the sky? You're going to say it's blue. Why is that? Because you experience that yourself. When you look up to the sky, you see the color is like a bluish color, right? But when you ask AI, say, hey, what is the color of the sky? It's also going to tell you it's blue, but it's different. It doesn't actually know what it means the sky is blue. It knows that the sky is blue because it's trained on a very large database, right? And in the database, there's millions of example of the word blue always come after the sky is. That's how AI knows. So it's not actually thinking, oh, yeah, I know the sky is blue. It's like, well, based on my training data, clearly it says that the sky is blue. So I'm going to tell the user the sky is blue.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love that explanation, Xiao. And again, it's all about simplifying for businesses, right? So you look at the real business lens, the LLMs, large language models, the machine learning, generative AI, and each have a certain function. As Xiao, gave some really good around LLMs. Machine learning is like forecast demand, predict churn, dynamic pricing, which these are huge, right? You think about the time it takes individuals in the past to do this. Now we can actually do this. Generative AI, think about scalable content, videos. You can actually prototype ideas. Think about a lot of folks that we know, like in software, right? A lot of times they create something and there's a lot of testing, there's a lot of different things that are involved just to try to get that product off the ground. With generative AI, we're able to test a lot of that and things that would take weeks, even months, we can accomplish in a matter of days. We probably can go through a couple examples of clients that we're working with right now as far as deep research and marketing. So
Mm.
again, not all AI is going to be useful to each individual. So we got to get away from that chasing the shiny object. Most SMBs just need narrow AI, right? Tactical tools that are going to be solving specific pain points, and then you grow from there.
Is it important for me as a business owner to know which of those three I'm dealing with, or is it just I use one of the tools and it does what I want? I kind of know what tool to go to for what I want it, or should I know that I'm dealing with an LLM versus a machine learning tool, or does that matter?
It absolutely matters. And I'll tell you again, part of the advisory, because some folks will read something or they'll get a TikTok video and they're like, "Oh, this is great," right? But you're trying to make a business decision based on a 2-minute video where maybe this individual, this content creator, put a lot of things as a foundation to build upon that, right? So you have to answer to your question. You absolutely need to know Based, I would say we always look at what is the end result? What is it you're trying to do? Trying to increase revenue, revenue. Are you trying to shore up because you just can have the same amount of staff, right? Are you trying to get more work done? So we look at that, and then we look to see what are the tools, what kind of AI applies.
Hmm. Yeah, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about AI out there. And so I want to talk through some of the things that I've heard about AI and kind of see what your responses are to them. And this is from some Facebook posts that I've seen or some conversations that I've had with people. So just what's your take on it? So first of all, I've heard that AI is theft, that it's taking people's data without permission. What would you say about that?
I'm going to throw this one to Shao because Shao comes from the entertainment industry and there's a lot of creative folks out there. So he's probably the expert on this one.
And a lot of lawsuits that you see out there as well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so this is always going to be a kind of a sensitive topic to talk about. One, because the reality is the age we're living, the internet age. There's, from my opinion, there's really no such thing as private data anymore. Everything's out there. The second you say something online, there's digital footprint. It's there. People can take from it. Bigger company that take those data to train AI model, unfortunately, you know there's no way to track that. There's no way to track where they take these data from and how they're training it. This is more of a like a conscious thing. The people who use this data have to be conscious of how they're going to compensate, like even figure out how to compensate the original data owners. And that's something I don't think anyone has really figured that out yet.
Mm-hmm.
I have my thoughts and ideas on how that can be resolved. That's essentially blockchain technology. I think that's really going to be the answer to this. But unfortunately, there's still a lot of education needs to happen even for people to understand what blockchain technology really is and how that can be applied. But in terms of data, I would say, if you just look at OpenAI, and we saw that, right? There's one previous interview of, I forgot the name of the person they interviewed, but it was, I think it was a previous CTO of OpenAI. When the interviewer essentially asked her, say, "Hey, how is the data currently being used to train OpenAI's model, and where you guys are taking those data?" She couldn't really answer that question. I think that says a lot about the current state of data that's being used to train AI model.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a lot of other data, right? Synthetic data. Essentially, that's the data that AI generated that's being used to train other AI model. That's really big because we are i- going to run out of data to train
Yeah,
AI model.
and sorry, Shao. I will tell you, you were talking about lawsuits, Jesse. It also depends on what part of the world you're in. If you think about like EU, European Union, they have put a lot of guidelines,
Mhm.
but in doing so, it's almost restricted growth and other things, right? We have one of our VPs, he's based out of the UK, and most of the clients he works on, if not all, right now, are outside of Europe because of these things, right? You look at the current administration that we have in the United States, they've taken a different approach than the prior administration. So there's a lot of adapting to all these changes. It has to be very dynamic. So a couple of months ago, it would have been a big no-no. Now it's like, hey, information for all. And you're seeing that in some courts. Some of them are holding and some of them are not. A lot of it is, you think about the music industry, which again, Shao came from out in Tennessee. They have some very, very stringent laws that they put in the books about 6, 7 months ago that speak to this. And so it's supporting a lot of the artists in the music industry where other states don't have anything. So it's a hit and miss right now.
And it's a new industry. It's fairly new, and so it's going to take some time for all of those laws and kind of the precedents to be set on a lot of that stuff. So What would you say to people who are hesitant to dive into AI because it's taking away jobs and they fear for the economy or for their employees?
You know, here's what I would tell you. And if you, everything that we do at the Gen AI is based around human and artificial intelligence. Everything, any project you work on, I mean, look at our website. We speak to that for multiple reasons. It's meant to augment, not replace. And I think it's just that comment's taken a life of its own. Don't get me wrong. There are roles out there that are very, I'll put it in a way that I've heard a lot, like redundant, right? Maybe you have somebody that just works on spreadsheets all day to place an order. We had a client who's in the wireless industry, and they had somebody for 20 years, literally was just a master at Excel. And it would take them days just to be able to place orders for accessories, etc. Well, we automated that, and a matter of minutes, taking all that data. Where this person, again, they were great. And what we did there was, as we do with all of our agreements, we asked them not to make any type of staffing changes unless absolutely necessary for 90 to 120 days, so they can truly see what's happening. And every single time I can tell you, they're like, oh my goodness, I'm glad I kept this person because now we've taught them how to use AI, and now they're a lot more productive, right? They have that industry knowledge, that legacy knowledge, combined with some of the simple automation or other AI things that we've put into place to help these companies, and now they're a lot more productive, a lot more powerful, I would say. Now, are there roles that can be replaced? Absolutely. As it continues to evolve, I am seeing that, right? You think about, we have a tool, Jenny. It's a end-to-end business development tool. What this does is it'll literally go out there, it'll hunt for potential clients, it'll do everything, all the screening, all of that. It'll start nurturing the lead. By the time it gets to us or one of our sales folks, these individuals are very well educated. They're pretty much ready to either ask a few more questions or, hey, where do I sign the dotted line? And so someone would say, you know what? That's replacing a salesperson, right? An SDR. Um, they're replacing the stuff. Look, I was a sales guy for years. It's the stuff we didn't really want to do. It is going through LinkedIn, doing all these different things, the research, all of that, and then to finally get one, and then that person says no. You're like, oh, well, now we put that on steroids, right? It's 100x because now it's gone after all these different possibles, and it's taken the no, whether we do an email sequence or we have an agent calling these folks, however we set up a solution for you. By the time it gets to that person is literally a closer. And so when you show them the value to say, wait a minute, before you were getting 5 deals, now you can get 15 and you're closing these. Who doesn't want that? So
And you actually need more staff then, because if you're having 15 deals, now you need another staff member anyway to handle that deal.
you nailed it, right? And so the example I just gave you really speaks to the true value if it's used and implemented correctly.
Yeah, like it allows you to. It actually makes you add more employees to do the tasks that actually really generate revenues instead of just the mundane and time-consuming manual task.
I think what my opinion on that would be that I think that not using AI for that fear is kind of short-sighted. I don't think AI is going to go anywhere, and so if you are not learning AI and using it, your business is going to be left behind, and you're going to be left in the dark ages while all the other companies are several steps ahead of you. Using it and taking over the marketplace that you could be a part of there.
Yeah,
What do you?
listen. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask the next question, but go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing with you. What I was saying is, again, I think we talked about this earlier, might have been here or a prior call that we were on, is the fear turns into this analysis paralysis and thinking of all these different things instead of just taking action. You can always pull some of this back.
Mm-hmm.
If a company uses AI, is their data at risk?
It really depends. So I'll give you an example. If you are dealing with very sensitive information, I'm just gonna use the example of NAN is a very popular platform to use to build some of the AI agent solution. So there's two versions of it. There's self-host, which essentially means you're hosting your AI servers in a local machine or in a private cloud, or if you're just using the regular online version, that makes a big difference. If you use a self-host version, your data is typically very protective and very safe because it's not passing through, anywhere online. But if you're passing that through the regular online process, yeah, your data is probably going to be at risk.
Is that something, like if you're dealing with HIPAA or if you're dealing with, I don't know, other protected financial information or something like that, if you're in those industries, are there ways to protect your data? I mean, if you find, a HIPAA compliant
Mhm.
service out there, is that okay to work with then?
Yeah, I mean, we work with, I think Oscar can also touch on that. We work with organization in the healthcare industry where, hip hop is a non-negotiable, and there's a lots of different way where you can make sure your data is absolutely clean and protected for the customers.
So there's not a reason to not at least explore AI if you're in one of those industries, and try to find those solutions that would work and make sure that data is secure. So
Yeah, you're right. There's
yeah,
absolutely no reason you should be the data privacy shouldn't be a reason to stop you from using it because
yeah,
there's thousands of different procedure you can put in place to make sure your data is clean and protected.
yeah. What?
Yep.
Sorry, go
No,
ahead,
no, no.
Oscar.
I was just going to say, look, and you mentioned financial services, right? A lot of people tend to think healthcare, HIPAA. Within financial services, you have about 4 or 5 additional things compared to HIPAA where you have to be compliant. And there's a lot of tools out there that are already in place. I think Shell touched on, we worked with both, right? Within banking, but also within the healthcare. There, it just depends how it's all set up, right? This is it's a great topic, but um, I'm sitting here pondering because there's just so many ways we can go with this one. But a short answer to your question, absolutely, no one should shy away from it because it's already being done. There really hasn't been a lot of issues, and if there have been issues, it has not been because of the AI or the technology. It's been more on how an individual or a company's been managing that information or access to it.
Yeah, perfect. When we're talking about small and medium-sized businesses, what are some ways that you see them use AI? What are some ways that are possible for them to dive in and start this journey?
Oscar, you want to take this one?
Um, Yeah, look, there's different ways. You can look at sales and outreach, you can look at marketing, you can look at admin and ops, meetings, and I'll give you some examples and we can dive in. Um, you think about, I talked earlier about a biz dev solution, right? Um, a lot of folks out there will do some simple automation, and I'm trying to stay away from throwing some names, but if you think about like Clay or another one that was very popular before Apollo and then ChatGPT, you can start building some lead lists, write intros, automate follow-ups. That's again a little old school in AI, believe it or not. The solution that I mentioned earlier takes all of these things and actually gives you a fresh lead. Where the old way, like I just described, you're tying it into like a lead provider or lead list, and you don't know how fresh those leads are. But again, what I shared earlier is, hey, it'll scrape the web, it'll go to a source, it'll give you something that's fresh and brand new, current information, it'll start working with them. So that's sales and outreach. You think about marketing, right? Think about a lot of people talk about SEO, right? Now there's such thing as AEO. And very briefly, I'll tell you, if you look at when you do a Google search or anything, any other way that you look at stuff, even if you go through Perplexity or one of the other sources, it'll summarize the AI version, and it just takes all the different sources, it compiles everything, and just gives it to you. most folks, we find about 90% of the people that are looking at these things do not click any further because the AI summary is enough information to give them what they want. You can click on summaries. The other 10% do that. Why do I mention SEO versus AEO? Because again, for marketers and for just any company, they're still doing things that way instead of saying, wait a minute, how do I make my webpage, my brand, whatever, appeal to this new way that we're consuming information? And that's making sure that you're attractive to a large language model like a Chat GPT or a Claude or a Perplexity, that people now use as a search engine. How do you start getting listed in there? And so again, those are those things that I'm referring to where it sounds complex. It isn't, right? You get the right advice, you're helped to understand this, and you can start making those decisions. Because I will tell you, there will still be companies focusing on SEO 2 and 3 years from now. And again, to your point earlier, Jesse, do I adopt AI or do I not? That's a perfect example of how you can hurt your business if you don't.
What does AEO stand for?
Oh my goodness. I
I
can't
think
think
it's
of it right now. I'm
AI
sorry.
engine optimization.
Oh,
Okay.
there we go. Thank you.
So you're talking about like when I Google something that AEO is showing up in the AI generated fields there at the top. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
That's the goal. Correct. You
Mhm.
you want to
Perfect.
focus
Okay.
on that versus the old traditional SEO. Look, I'm not saying it doesn't work, but we're seeing a big transformation. Companies that are adopting this, and again, honestly, Jesse, that's probably maybe 1 to 5%. Most organizations aren't focused on this. We
No.
just do it because we provide it as a service to a lot of our to several of our clients.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to correct myself. It's answer engine optimization.
Correct.
Answer engine. Okay.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. I'll have to look into that. That the
Hmm.
new wave of the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How would a company use AI for like operations?
So I'll give you example. This is more, I guess, this is more of customer service side of things. Would you consider the operation?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I
So
would. Yeah.
one thing we see in very big demand right now, and we've implemented quite a few of these solutions for both, either it's in the e-commerce business or even, for example, right, there's one client that we have, attorney. His TikTok content, recently went just completely viral. So he's getting just bombarded with emails asking about his servers, or you know, um, just a lot of redundant questions. I would say probably 8 out of 10 email is the same question, but he's not able to answer all of these email himself because he has a very small team, and right now he just like overloaded with these questions. So what we built is essentially AI that is trained on all of his FAQ questions and all of his business policies. So now every time someone email him, the AI is going to first analyze what type of email this is. And if this is classified as a FAQ question and the AI has answer to that, it will write out a super personalized email to respond to that person. And we purposely putting a module there that it will wait 8 minutes before response because a human doesn't typically respond within a couple of seconds, right? There's some delay. So we're putting those little modules there to mimic more of a human behavior. That way, when the person get a response, they immediately think, oh, wow, this person is really on top of it. And I feel like I'm being taken care of. So that's just one of the millions way it helps with operation. Other things, right? Client onboarding, internal employee onboarding, all of these things can be extremely streamlined with AI.
Those are
Yeah.
amazing
Listen,
examples.
I will tell you, one that ties into the response piece, to make it, I'll say humanize, and I use that term loosely because really nothing gets to that point as a human, right? But you think about AI agents, specifically voice agents that can actually place calls, right? We can adjust latency, pitch, even an accent if you want. There's a solution that we worked with, and I want to respect time, but long story short, they were getting so many calls, they couldn't handle it. So we set up a digital employee, be able to handle calls, a little bit of sarcasm, and when they talked, a little bit of humor or joking with the clients. It's based on their responses, they can pick up on those things. And so again, to Xiao's point, you can adjust it so much. It's not the AI of 2 years ago, not even 6 months ago. Things have changed and advanced so much. So again, people's preconceived ideas, not that they're wrong, but I would strongly recommend, hey, let's take a second look at this. Maybe it wasn't the right thing for you before. What about now?
So I might be dealing with AI and not even know it when I'm talking to a company or texting a company. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead, Xiao.
No, I was just agreeing because most of these people that talk to our client via those solutions, they have no idea what's AI. And
We listen.
yeah, and we even implement there's another really fun example. We implementing a AI cold outreach agent that makes phone call for one of our clients who's in the foreclosure business. And we will listen to those recording of people having full on conversation with the AI on the phone without knowing that they're talking to AI.
Hmm.
And
Awesome.
Jesse,
Yeah.
I think the example that Xiao mentioned on the mortgage foreclosure business, this is something that actually helps because as we monitor those calls for quality with the client, you can feel the emotion coming from these individuals and the relief once this AI agent was able to provide some solutions. Now, we're firm believers of having human in the loop. And so it doesn't do the entire thing, but it gets them ready, has a conversation, and then it sets up a time or an appointment with an actual human to be able to talk through a lot more of the complexities, et cetera. However, again, this providing a service to them, the business owner now can actually multiply the amount of outreach that they're doing with a human that was there doing that before now can focus again on helping these clients.
Mm-hmm. How might a business use AI for either research, market research, or for reporting? Anything on that end?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Shao, do you want to go through we're literally going to deliver this one solution in about 2 days. But go ahead, Shao.
Yeah. So market research, for example, this client we're working with right now, who's in the nurse staffing business, essentially she gave us a lot of data from her business. First, we use AI. What we did is first we use AI to analyze all this data, to provide a deep analysis and insight on this data, and then use AI to do a deep research on the market, and then use all the finding we found through deep research against her data, and then combine of the both, we'll be able to provide strategic strategy recommendation, marketing strategy recommendation, and so she can start, really tailor her business and pivot according to those data, very factual based. And also, in the report we give her, you walk her through the methodology of how it came to that conclusion based on the data, so she can understand, okay, this is why we went from point A to point Z.
Yeah, and it doesn't just stop there. So when you think about this tool, this report, this solution that we provided for this client, a traditional marketing agency, it would have taken them minimum a good 3, 4 weeks, if not longer, because there's a lot of market research. There's just so many different things. And so again, this is another example. It's not replacing the job because now this is something that this client's going to be able to work with their agency of record. And we were able to use technology to provide this and fast track their growth, right? They're looking at expansion. We even we had it build out a franchising model based on what some of the successful franchising models are out there, right? Depending on what uh, anybody's trying to do. And in this case, this client is looking to expand into different states. And so think about the level of research, even boots on the ground, right? Saving all of that, which sometimes pulls resources to be able to go do that. Now we were able to provide all of that for that CEO and the marketing team to be able to make some meaningful decisions.
Mhm. Yeah, and to your question about reporting, Jesse, we've built solution that essentially use AI to monitor, for example, right, monitor your top 5 or top 10 competitors. Um, every time they either make a new announcement or make tiny changes on their website, it will pick that up and
Mm.
then report it back to you. So now you can, make informed decision and, based on those, how your competitors moving or how your entire industry is moving.
I've even used it as simple as I've got a short-term rental, and you take the reviews from the short-term rental, feed it into AI,
Mhm,
and it'll consolidate the reviews and say, yeah, these are the top 3 things that your reviews say you should work on, and
mhm,
oh, okay, that's good feedback. If that's the negative things that people are saying about my unit, then let's fix that.
mhm,
And Jesse, here's the beauty, right? So if you're in marketing, you do groups to be able to study a product or give you the honest feedback. AI will do that. There is no emotion involved. I mean,
Hmm.
could have some bias built in. You got to be careful in how you're looking at the stuff, but that's where we're able to partner with our clients and say, hey, here's the reality. I know you love this idea, but here's the reality. Do you want to go down this route? Just go in with your eyes open.
Hmm. Now, I hear a lot of talk about prompt engineering when people are using AI, when they're interacting with Gemini or GPT or whatever platform out there. What is prompt engineering, and can you give us a crash course on how to do it effectively?
Yeah, so prompt engineering, to put it simply, is the art of how you properly communicate and convey message clearly to the AI so it can do a really good job of helping you achieving your goals.
So that it gives you the results that you want, right?
Yeah.
Because we're interacting with a machine, so
Mhm,
we have to give it very specific instructions of what we're looking for
mhm.
in order to get the results that we want. Is that what you just said?
Yeah. So an
Okay.
analogy I love using is, for example, right? You can tell me, say, Shao, I want you to give me a glass of water. I could have given you a cold glass of water or a warm glass of water, right? But if you say, Shao, I want you to give me a glass of water with 3 cubes of ice in it, and then a little slice of lemon slice on top, that's exactly what you're going to get.
Yeah, I,
It's
I
amazing.
want I want to give you an additional example. So think about, and it is important, right? We so we deal with a lot of business owners that have been exposed to LLMs like ChatGPT, a Claude, etc. And a lot of times, like, oh, AI doesn't work, or ChatGPT is not as smart as I need it to be. I'm like, you ever heard of the old expression, guy go right, garbage in, garbage out? So an example, and again, I want to tie this to small to mid-sized businesses that may not have a lot of exposure. You say, hey, I want you to write a social media post about my new product
Mhm.
versus, hey, can you, I'm gonna just freestyle this, write a LinkedIn post announcing our new inventory automation software for independent retailers. Highlight how it reduces stock out, supports Shopify, and saves 5 hours a week. I want you to use a professional tone with a call to action to book a demo, right? So you're being specific, and this is, again, this is stuff from a year, 2 years ago. A lot of times people just brush by it. So you be specific, set a role, include the format and the tone. And that's very simple. There are some what we call mega prompts that can be a page, 2 page. But when you write something like that, you're going to get a better response. But because people don't understand or don't use it, the first thing is, oh, AI is no good or it just doesn't get it. I can't tell you how many times I've heard it from people that I have tremendous respect. They're extremely bright. And I'm like, well, let me show you. Let's take all of that, all these positive things you have as an individual, let's channel it in here. And I promise you, you're going to get a phenomenal result.
Yeah, and one thing a lot of people don't realize is AI is extreme, like ChatGPT, for example. These language models, they're extremely sensitive to the detailed, subtle changes in words. So, for example, right, if you say, explain this problem to me, versus describe this problem to me, you're going to get very different output. And I didn't realize until I was literally building out a solution. I spent 3 days trying to debug certain things. I keep going back and forth on change the workflow. In the end, I was like, wait, let me look at my prompt. I changed one single word in my prompt of the AI, and that drastically just completely changed the output and the result of that workflow. So it turned out it wasn't a workflow problem; it was a prompting problem that I had.
And I think when you're communicating, conversing with AI, you can continue to ask new questions of it too. So you get your initial prompt and you say, nope, that's not quite right. Please change this aspect of it, or continue to ask it to refine the response that it's giving you.
Yes.
What are some of the top AI tools that you think small and medium-sized businesses should consider right now?
Top AI tools, I think, Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, those typical ones that people use every day, but they just don't use it well. From what we're seeing, there's still tremendous value that people are not fully utilizing just from these tools simply. A little more advanced, right? There's, for example, graphic design. ChatGPT 4.0 has a pretty decent image generation ability now, but it's still not perfect. If you want to get really incredible output, use Midjourney. However, Midjourney do require a little more technical skill in terms of prompting, but the output you get from Midjourney, in my opinion, is 10 times better than what ChatGPT can do. um, Other tools like get really good at no code tools like make.com or NAN. You can build some very complex and very powerful AI solution using these tools.
And what kind of cost are we talking about? And what would the ROI be on some of these tools for these businesses?
You're talking about easily 10x because the cost is really just a running cost, right? For example, um, something like an NAN platform, the if you self-host it, the running cost is really just depends on how much you use it. And on top of that, there's a token cost. So if you're using OpenAI's API or using someone else, but the token cost nowadays for AI models is getting just dirt cheap nowadays. So you're probably
Yeah,
talking
and
about. Go ahead, Oscar.
sorry, there's a delay there. Here's what I'll tell you, because it can be overwhelming, Jesse.
Mhm.
If you're looking at just getting started, right? Everybody talks about ChatGPT. Yeah, look, about 70% of folks that use AI use that as a large language model. If you're doing some type of writing, most of the time Claude, Sonnet, I think 3.7 is a good one. I'm cautious to recommend things because a month from now, it may not be the most advanced, it may not fit your need. So the best way I can tell you is start with a single friction point, not a whole department. Figure out what specific tasks you want to do. Start testing things like, again, ChatGPT. Perplexity is another tool that's I love, right? You have the free version or you have the paid version where you get to do a lot more things. So you start with that single point of friction. You pick a tool that plugs into your existing workflow. Again, not one that demands like new behavior or anything. So if you think about, again, if you're a Microsoft organization, okay, try Copilots, right? If you're Google, you can try something else, right? OpenAI's product, ChatGPT, et cetera. And now they're getting into the whole products industry, which we can talk another time. They have a big partnership with Apple, and so they're going to start putting products out that, maybe, like I said, we can talk later. The third piece: don't skip training. Document what you build and teach your team, because the mistakes, the questions that you have, I guarantee somebody in your team may have that as well. And your team could be one other person, right? Or if you're a solopreneur, maybe a client that you're working with. So start with the single point of friction, right? Not the whole department. Pick a tool that's going to plug into your existing workflow, tech stack, so you don't have to learn something new. And then don't skip the training. analyze it, learn from it, get frustrated with this. That way you get better as you continue to try.
Yeah, that's amazing. I want to step back. We from the beginning we talked about the difference between AI versus automation. We don't need to dive too deeply into the automation piece, but can you talk a little bit about what the difference is between the automation and AI? And then just kind of talk through how a small and medium-sized business might use automation or what it would be good for.
Sure. Also, you want me to take this?
Yeah, yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So A, the difference between AI and automation is that AI can be, automation can be incorporated as a big component of AI solution, and kind of vice versa. When you incorporate AI into automation, you essentially just adding more of a intelligent layers into it. So that I don't like to use the term think, but you kind of quote unquote allow the automation to think a little more um, before taking the action, or in the process of it. In automation, the traditional automation is a lot more statics. So A happened, then B happened, and C happened.
So
When
automation is a very specific process. It's a
very
very
specific,
here are the rules, here's the process you're always going to take,
yeah,
and it might have some branches, right? That like if this, then it's going to do this, if this, but it's a very we set up the exact steps that we want.
yes, exactly.
Okay.
When you incorporate AI into that process, so let's just take AI agent for example, right? You kind of giving this whole process a little more autonomy of determining or deciding what should do next, what kind of tools you should use to carry out the task. So you can kind of think for yourself and decide more.
And I think automation's been around a lot longer than AI, or at least commercially available.
Mhm.
And I think most of the tools that we use have some form of automation built into them.
Yeah.
Like even to the simplest form of you open up a Google email and you can, click a button to create a template, and
Mhm.
suddenly it's doing that exact process. It's just copying and pasting this email that you always send, and so a template's a version of it. Drip campaigns in your CRM where it's always going to send out this set of emails. I mean, just these automated tasks that are time saving are things that I always wanted to do this after this after this, and you can kind of set that up. What are some things that a business owner should look for if they're thinking about automating something?
So the framework that we use when we work with clients to determine how to implement AI and what they should automate is, one, first look at the task and see, is this something that I do every single day, and is the process pretty similar every single day. If it is, it's already a really good place for you to start to consider how you can use AI for this. Second, does it consider taking data from point A to point B? 90% of the time, if you involve that process, then you can use AI or automation or AI automation for it. Um, Other stuff is understanding. Look at how much error rates it is in certain tasks. If something has very high error rates, that is very easy to make manual mistake, then that's also another good area to see, okay, how we can use machine, how we can use AI to pretty much reduce the error rate to zero.
Mm.
Yeah.
I know when I'm working with companies, I always look for, if they're doing double entry, if they've got two systems that, the same information has to be built into, I'm always looking at how do you automate that? Can you create some connection between them to make it, again, it takes away some of the errors, helps save time. I mean, there's just so many bonuses to that kind of thing too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Um,
listen, at the risk of sounding cheesy, it's limitless.
yeah, pretty much. Is there anything else people should know about automation?
I'll share anything in your mind.
No, I think we've covered it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at least we've given people a starting place.
Yeah, I feel like we've given a starting place for both AI and automation and a little bit how they work together, what distinguishes them. Is there anything else with AI or automation that you would want people to know? Anything else any questions that we didn't bring up that you want to talk about?
I think understanding the biggest thing I always emphasize is don't when you try to use AI, don't try to just start using like the most advanced things you see in social media nowadays. Start with the foundation. Start with really on even down to understanding the different models within ChatGPT. That can make a very big difference in the way you even use ChatGPT, right? For example, right now, and most people don't even know there's different models in ChatGPT. But if you look at it, I think there's 4.0, there's 0.3, there's 4.1, there's 4.5, right? Understanding 4.0 is the base model right now. Is pretty good for most things. But if you're asking ChatGPT something that require a little more logic or reasoning ability, right? Strategy, those type of stuff is really good to use something like O3 model. If you want to write things, write article, write social media caption, or TikTok video script, 4.5 is a really good model to use. But if you're doing coding, right, this is more for developer. 4.1 is designed for coding. So
So it would
knowing
give you
this
a
difference,
different result because you're using a different model.
yes,
Even if you use the same prompt, it would give you a different result.
yeah, because each
Okay,
of these models is designed differently to do different things.
that's awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would say as a final point, don't think about AI. There's a lot of like things from 2022, 23, right? Because ChatGPT, I think version 3 was the one that was launched in November 22. People thought that's when AI came out, right? Can't fault them because they really weren't exposed to it. But you think about now AI is not, it's no longer a competitive edge. It's the baseline. You have to be, right? Um, the difference is how intelligently and ethically you apply it. Um, and you mentioned about the concern, jobs replaced, people replaced, and I think we showed examples how it enhances. So it's about redeploying human focus to what actually drives growth, relationships, judgment, creativity, leadership. Um, I'm seeing a lot of the businesses that are winning today. They're not just using AI. They're building systems um, to take advantage and help them grow at a faster pace, and to an extent with a better safety net, because there's a lot of things that you didn't have prior, where AI can say, hey, this is vast knowledge base from the universe that I can help you and apply these things to help you maybe avoid some of these pitfalls and maybe get you moving a lot quicker.
It's an incredible journey that we have before us with AI and automation and all this kind of stuff. My last question, you guys are the AI experts. Why and when would a medium-sized business or small business contact you for help with AI?
Listen, I would say, and I will tell you, we've pivoted this year a lot around education and advisory. So, in short, if you're a business that literally has no type of AI, very low on tech usage, etc., we can work with you to get you to a point where you start feeling more comfortable and then get you to expand. Even if you're a business that has embraced technology, which we see a lot of, there's folks that we've had to be that medium or that bridge, right? They'll have some great tools like an AI note taker, they'll have Salesforce or just different things. We were able to take all those things and bring them together using AI and making it more efficient. And then you have kind of the third tier, which is folks that have embraced AI, um, right or wrong. We work with them to say, hey, are you maximizing what you're doing? Or in some cases, they've had a bad experience. So we say, let's go back to the drawing board, or maybe not back to the drawing board. Let's just fix these things and apply it the right way. So it doesn't matter where you are in your AI journey as a AI enthusiast, AI quote unquote expert, somebody that just wants to take their or future proof their company with AI. We're able to inject ourselves wherever you're on that journey and partner with you, not just to implement, but the difference is if you look at our background, we've had businesses. Like I said earlier, we've done the bootstrap startup, we've done the Fortune 100. So what really differentiates us is having the agnostic business domain experience, not just the technical side, but how do you bring these together? And so you get results a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm. And what's your website?
Website is TheGenAI.ai, which is TheGenAI.ai.
Awesome. And my website, for those that are interested, is jessekreun.com, JESSEKREUN.com. But thank you too for being willing to have this conversation today. It's been good, and I hope that we can bring some value to some small and medium-sized businesses and demystify AI so that people are willing to engage with it and learn and take it on, because I think it's something that can really level the playing field for small and medium-sized businesses if they really learn and start embracing AI rather than being scared of it. I think they can, like you said, grow quicker, and just take advantage of some of the opportunities out there that weren't there before.